What's up, everybody? Bill Tendo here, and today we're going to talk about this bad mamma jamma right here. And I know this is hard to see. I'm going to lift it up, bring it closer to the camera, and then I'm going to explain my reticence for hefting it up. Now, this is the Sony PSX, not to be confused with the PS1, which a lot of people call the PSX. That's not actually the case, although that is the name of the emulator for emulating PS1. All of that aside, this is actually a PlayStation 2, but it's so much more than a PlayStation 2. Now, this was only released in Japan, never made it out of Japan. It was not marketed by Sony Computer Entertainment like the PlayStation was. It was actually marketed by Sony Electronics because this was released in 2003, December 13th, and it was marketed as a home entertainment system. So this has so much more than just PlayStation 2 capabilities. Now, what makes this different than a PS2? Let's start with the weight. Now, a PS2 weighs roughly 4.5 pounds for the fat model at launch. This weighs in at slightly over 13 pounds. So you're looking at triple the weight of a standard PS2. But that makes sense once you understand everything that's inside of it. So this actually has S-video input, S-video output. It's got RCA input, your red, yellow, white, and output. It's got Dolby 5.1 surround sound on it. It has infrared in, RF in. You can cat TV in. There's pretty much everything at the time that was able to be connected between any type of electronic unit and a television. This was available to you on the PSX. Now, I'm going to show you the back of it real quick. So, as you can see, it's got a lot of ports. Over here is actually controller ports for your PS2. Because if you flip it around front, your memory card slots, you have room for a Memory Stick Pro. Now, the Memory Stick Pro actually is a Sony proprietary deal, and that's interesting that it's on there because this Memory Stick Pro Duo is what the PSP used. Now, even though this is a PlayStation 2, technically, one of the things that it could do is receive audio, video, and photo files from the PSP, which is quite awesome, to be honest. It also had a DVD recorder on it, a DVD player, much better DVD player than was installed in the regular PS2. It used the PS2's Emotion Engine and graphics synthesizer chips, and it has an internal PS2 HDD inside of it, which I believe is 180 gigabytes, which is massive at the time. Massive, because you could also use it as a DVR and record your favorite TV shows at the time. Maybe TiVo was the biggest thing. And then we can DVR anything now through our cable services. But that was a really, really big deal at the time. This bad boy was actually completely absurd because it also, I don't know if it ever played Blu-ray. Sorry, I'm just doing a calculator real quick here to give you the launch price. This was actually 99,000 yen, which is the equivalent of $650 today in US dollars. However, back in 2003 when this was released, that would have been much closer to $800. Now, a lot of people weren't ready to spend $800. It only sold a little bit under a million units in Japan, which sounds like a lot, but when you have a $700-800 unit and it only sells 1 million units, that's not very good. Overall, it's considered a commercial failure, but it's also considered highly collectible. A lot of people want the PSX. It is a beautiful thing. One of the downsides of the PSX is once they go, they're gone. Because the simple fact is, Sony did something really different with this machine when it came to the hard drive inside. So as I mentioned, it came with the Final Fantasy HDD internally. That was 180 gigabytes. And that sounds fantastic, and it is fantastic, except for one little thing. Unlike most hard drives, which are highly interchangeable, you can change it. Like you could take your PS3 right now, pull the 20 gigabyte hard drive out the side, slap you a 256 in there with no problem whatsoever. You couldn't do that on these units. The hard drive was actually coded to the motherboard. So the problem with PSXs is over time, when that hard drive goes bad, the unit is dead for good. There's not a lot you can do about it. There is a complicated, very complicated, and I build emulators and it's too complicated for me. There is a thing on GitHub that'll tell you how to do it, how to restore it, but it's extremely complicated. And I'm saying 99% of people are never going to do that. Once it dies out on them, it's just a piece of shelf candy. And here we are at 20 years later. So they're starting to kick it a little bit. You're looking at, I wouldn't even guess. I would say a 25% failure rate now. I don't know, though. That's just in my experience. Anyway, check out the Sony PSX. It's a PlayStation 2. It's a home entertainment console. It's a DVD recorder. It's everything. Actually, you know what this reminds me of? In the same generation, Panasonic released, only in Japan, the Panasonic Q, which was basically the GameCube version of this. So if that helps you link the two together, because the Panasonic Q is way more famous than the PSX, but if mentally it helps you link those together, basically it's Nintendo and Sony were doing the same thing at the same time, trying to convert their best-selling console or their current console into a home entertainment system. All right, everybody, like and subscribe if you want. That's up to you. I don't care. I'm never going to get paid from YouTube. But if you want to see more content like this, like and subscribe. Hey, hey, hey.